Hey, how's it going? My name is Andres Tagliaferro, or you can just call me Tags. And in this video, I want to talk about 4 things that you can implement into your client intake process that's going to change the way your clients look at you, talk about you, recommend you, and honestly encourage them to come back to you as a service provider. Now, if you don't know who I am a creative director who started his own agency a couple of years ago, based out of Dallas, Miami, and New York. And I work with businesses and brands to amplify their reach by creating really cool story-driven content. Naturally, the creative field is centered on communication, right? That's the whole point of creative. And something people maybe undervalue is the communication between your client and yourself as the creative. And so if you're a creative, solopreneur, entrepreneur, whatever you are, and you want to make the relationships with your clients better, I think this will give you some value. And let me briefly touch on it before we get into the things that you can implement today. I'm sure you're thinking, man, like I'm a creative. Like the thing that matters the most is how good my projects are, how good I can make this graphic. I can design it better than the other 10 guys in my city. So therefore I should get called and I should book clients after the call and I should be able to do everything perfectly, right? That's usually the thought process behind creative, but something you kind of want to start understanding is that the most important part of growing your business, getting more clients, is the client and customer experience. Now, is the creative part of that? Of course. If you do a crappy job, no matter how good you speak and how good you do anything, you're not going to get anywhere. But if you do a really good job on the creative side, but the client hates working with you or hated working with you, you're not going to get that word of mouth spread. You're not going to get other people wanting to work with you. You're not going to get a repeat customer. You're not going to build good relationships with these clients that will last you 5 years of steady income. So I wanted to share with you a piece of feedback that I always get from my clients. And that is that they've always felt comfortable and confident in the idea of working with me after our first call. Now, some people, some businesses fabricate this sense of comfortability and trust in their sales process. I'm just a firm believer that being authentic and being the most honest that you can be with your client is the best way to go. Because if not, you end up being one of those guys who just give empty promises and then they can't follow it up once the client's paid. I don't know about you, but in my book, that's called a scammer, someone who scams people. I take a more authentic approach, and I want to share that approach with you to make sure that your clients from now on feel comfortable and secure when they work with you, and they eventually just give you more money. All right, so the first thing you want to do when you finally get that first call booked with the potential client, right? You've been emailing back and forth, maybe you've had a couple of DMs. Okay, the first thing I want you to do when you hop on this call is set clear expectations for the meeting. And honestly, every meeting. This is something you guys need to start doing on that first call. No matter who booked the call, whether you came to them when they posted something and then they wanted to talk to you about it, or maybe they came to you from a referral or anything, as the service provider, as the person who's gonna give them some sort of service, right? It's your responsibility to set the expectations for the whole meeting. It sounds like a big thing that is really hard, but it's honestly really simple. So the first thing you do, you hop on the call, you say what's up, you say, hey, thank you for being here. I appreciate your time. I'm excited to talk about this project that you want to create. Before we get any deeper, I just want to be clear that the purpose of this call is the purpose of the call. And that's where you put it in, right? And this is something that takes maybe 20 to 30 seconds out of the call time, and it will dramatically improve how the next 20 minutes of the call are going to look like. The reason you should do this is because sometimes clients come in with their own form of expectation. So they might not even know what they're getting themselves into. Maybe they just booked this call thinking, oh, well, this guy's going to pitch me the whole plan for the video I have in mind that we briefly talked about over DM. He's going to give me a full timeline of the whole project. He's going to give me a full price of what I can expect to pay. He's going to do all of this in 15 to 20 minutes. And it's your job to make sure that if that's his expectation going into the meeting, that it's not, okay? Because what you don't want to do is confuse the client. You want to make him feel comfortable and secure. So after you've laid out what the purpose of the meeting is in those 30 seconds, I also think it's important to lay out some things that this meeting is not for. Now, this is the same thing. You're setting a clear expectation. There are some things in your head that you through experience, you'll learn that are worth mentioning to avoid any confusion again, so people are on the same page. Again, this is all a communication game, okay? Y'all just want to be on the same page. So I like to make sure that I throw in some things that maybe they thought they were going to get in this meeting that I know for a fact I'm not going to say, so they don't ask it, so it doesn't come up, so they don't push for it, and if they do, I can point back to this moment. So one of the things that I don't really like to talk about or give out on the first call, at the end of the call, is an exact quote for said project. I can't just give you a flat rate for that just in the middle of the meeting. That's just not something I'm willing to do, because I end up probably either overpricing or underpricing, and nothing is real. Something I will say as I'm discussing the things we're going to go over, it's just like, also, now I want to make sure this meeting is exactly for the purpose of getting to know if we're going to be a good fit together and if we should continue working together. And then I offer them an alternative, and that's like, I'll give you a ballpark quote for what you're saying to me might be around. That way you can set the expectation up front of what the range of the price will be. So that way you're not misleading that person. They're thinking they're going to get a $200 video and you hit them with a $10,000 quote. Just make sure you're setting clear expectations for every single meeting you have with every single customer, because the first way to lose somebody is by confusing them, because then that makes them feel dumb, that makes them feel stupid, and just people don't want to feel that way, okay? So it's on you to set those expectations. Okay, number 2 is lead with questions. When you're hopping on these meetings, you might be very tempted to just info vomit on the client. And what does that look like? It's maybe they bring up a question, and so you decide to show your expertise in the specific thing that you do, right? And then you go for 10 minutes about the reason why you're better at this photography style than this other photographer or whatever. Clients don't want to sit there and listen to you. They want to feel heard. They want to know that you are trying to offer a solution to the problem that they're bringing up. So if, for example, in my book, right, if somebody's asking me for a video, it's usually because they want to promote something, which means that there's a lack of promotion in something, right? They want to launch a website or they want to launch a product, and they want to make sure that everyone in their city hears it. So they want to make a video about it, and then they want to post the video on their social medias that are followed by X amount of people. They want to put it on ads specific to the city. And so I, as a videographer, I have to fully understand the complexity of this video in this 20 to 30 minute call, so I can give them an accurate quote. Now, how am I gonna get to that point if I'm not asking them questions? I'm not. I'm just going to be assuming that they're going to want this. Again, we're not being clear. We're not being clear with the person. How are they going to feel like they can trust me if I didn't even ask them any questions? Remember, you're trying to solve a problem for them. And the only way to authentically find a solution is by asking questions. The way you show interest, let's say you're going on a date with somebody, right? And then you want to impress the girl, right? You don't just talk about how good you are. You ask them questions about themselves, right? That makes them feel comfortable. That makes them feel heard. That makes them feel like you are interested in her. The same is in client projects. The same thing is with client relations and vice versa, right? You have to show interest in the project. Why would they pick somebody who isn't even interested in the project? A really simple way that you can do that is by structuring your call to a series of questions that you can ask to qualify them as somebody who you want to work with. The whole point of this is to work with clients you want to work for, right? You didn't get into this business, you didn't get into this thing to do projects you hate, right? So just assuming that you're the right person for the job, assuming that you can crush it without asking any questions, is just gonna feel a little weird. I mean, imagine you go on that first date, and instead of asking questions and getting to know the person and understanding what they want out of the relationship, you just go in, you sit down and you say, "Would you be my girlfriend?" It's weird. It's strange. They'd be like, what the heck? They'd be thrown off guard. And sometimes that's how we be coming up to our clients and being like, yo, I do this. You saw my work. Let's work. And that just doesn't work that way. It's your job to ask questions because of what I said. And also, doing this allows the client to make the decision if you're right for the job in real time. As you're asking the questions, this is a more humble way to show your expertise, right? Somebody who just comes in and just starts yammering about this idea that they have for this thing doesn't really come off as somebody who wants to work with the person to create the best version of the project. You're establishing some sort of power dynamic there that's just gonna make everything weird. So that's my second tip: lead with questions and center the whole conversation around questions. I guarantee you having a client be like, man, he asked all the right questions and he even got me to say some things I didn't even know I needed for the thing. Like, that's what collaboration is for. It's not just to get you paid, and it's not just to add something to portfolio. No. Your job here is to solve a problem. So lead with questions. This is a very simple thing you can do that will significantly change the way your first calls go. Okay, number 3, this one's easy. Over prepare for those meetings. Okay, so we live in 2023, okay? I don't know about y'all. I have not taken a physical meeting in forever. I take all of my meetings from the comfort of my office, at a coffee shop. Everything is through a digital meeting. Okay, so there are benefits that I want you to use from having a digital meeting, especially as a creative. If you can use the platforms that you have to create something that'll make you look more appealing than all the other candidates, you should go ahead and do so. Something that I think goes a long way is having visual representations of what you are trying to explain. The share my screen function is you're gonna be your best friend, and it's gonna make you be way more understandable as you're trying to explain these things that they probably aren't aware of.
Got pretty much everything. I mean, it seems pretty straightforward, like the idea, like what's next, right? So usually after this call, like I like ending with like a ballpark number just so you can be aware and we can talk about it real quick if that's even something you're able to do or willing to do. But it starts the process right here. I could show you. Let me see if I can share my screen here. Window, this one. Okay. Okay, do you see that?
Yeah.
So this is basically the steps, right? And so this is like, ignore the timing of this. This is like specific to a project I was working on. But the idea is, you start with 50% of the deposit, and that kind of starts the pre-production, right? So obviously that's when we organize all the stuff, come up with the dates. I like having, all of it figured out before we shoot. So storyboard, shot list, locations, everything, because production should be the shortest part of it, right? It should be we're in there, out of there as quick as possible. So pre-production and post-production are the biggest time windows of the actual work, right? And since we have a ramp to December, it's awesome because we get a lot of time to really pre-produce this thing. And then if you want to launch in spring, we got a lot of time to edit it, make sure it's perfect. So the idea is I like to give a 10-day turnaround. So from production to delivery, it's 2 weeks, so 2 business weeks. And then I deliver the first cut, and then you got 3 revisions. So if you have anything you want to change, and it's usually in the cut, right? Because again, everything you're going to approve before we produce it. So there shouldn't be any issue in terms of like, location or what we're shooting or whatever. That's all going to be locked in. But with the cut, maybe you don't like the song that was picked, or maybe you don't like the way it was paced. Maybe you want it to be a little slower. Like those kind of things is what we can revise in the cut, right? And then, and then we had the final delivery, and that's when the second half of the payment would come in when you're satisfied with the product. But that's really the what's it called, the scope of the projects that I do for one video. You know what I'm saying? And what do you think? Looking at this, does it make sense?
Yeah, that's normal.
I asked my client a question about their timeline. Okay, now timeline is something I use to price. Okay, so if they need a video in a week, as opposed to if they need a video in 4 months, the week one is going to cost a lot more because it's going to take all of my time right now to get that done in time, as opposed to 4 months. I can take more time doing other projects, etc. Right? That's important to me. So after asking him that question and him telling me like a rough window of time, I said, okay, cool. Let me explain to you my process and the way that I operate and the way I create videos, my production process with all of my clients. I have a visual representation they can look at, read, that's backing up what I'm saying every time I talk about it. So now we're both looking at one thing. We're both on the same page. It doesn't feel like I'm just vomiting information on them that they might not understand. Then I also gave them that file afterwards so they could keep it and they could be aware of what it's going to look like. And just this little small thing that you would think is like, I don't need to do that, is one of those over preparations that are going to make a huge difference when they leave the call. If they don't feel like you're doing the most in this part of the project, why do you think they're gonna trust you to do the most with the most important part of the project? That's a good question to ask yourself. So yeah, over prepare for each meeting. That was just one example that I use a lot. I just like having visual things to show what I'm trying to say in these meetings because again, you just come off as more professional and it allows you to communicate better. And the last one I will say, which is so important, like you won't even understand how important this is because it seems so dumb and so like insignificant, but it's this. Bring positive energy to the meeting. People want to work with people who want to work with them. This is obvious. People want to be liked by the people they spend time with. People want to love who loves them, right? The same translates into work relationships. And if you are coming into this first call, first impression, you're hearing them out, you're understanding more of the project they want to do, and you're just not excited, you're just not passionate about it, you're just not bringing excitement to the project, they're gonna realize that. That's gonna be a subconscious feeling they feel when they think of your name. I guarantee you, you're not the only photographer they're talking to. You're not the only videographer they're talking to. The one that is the most excited to do this project is gonna be the one that gets picked. Like sometimes that's even more important than like the actual skill level because that's just a truth of like work. Like you wanna work with the people you wanna work with. Think about it. If we go to a restaurant and we wanna eat, what is the main function of the server? Right? The main function of the server is to come to your table, ask you what you want, and take it back to the kitchen to get it cooked, and then they bring you the food. That is literally their only function. Now, we can tell when the server wants to be there, or at least is happy to be there, or is joyful. You can tell when they're smiling, when they're kind of having small conversation, when they're respectful of your time. You can feel that, and you know what? You can definitely feel when they don't want to be there. You can feel when they're pissed. You can feel when they're just annoyed at this stage in their life that they have to do this thing. You can feel that, and a lot of us will hang on to that encounter. We'll go the next morning, oh my god, can you believe that horrible server we had? Or you'll be like, man, I can't believe that person was just so nice, they were so sweet, they were so cool, they didn't even need to be that kind to me. This extends into your work relationship so much, especially in that first impression. Like you want to bring that energy. I've had people fly me out to other cities where there is a whole small community of videographers and creators or whatever that they could hire because they just liked me more in terms of like talking to me got them more excited about this project that they had to do, got them more excited about this problem they had to solve. And you know, you would think that this is like something that you find out deeper in the process of working with somebody, but this is something you can tell off rip. You can tell if somebody wants to be there. You can tell if somebody's excited to be there. And by the way, this is not some sort of fabricated feeling of excitement that I put on my face just to get people to kind of side with me. And by the way, this isn't like a fabricated feeling I put on just to like get in favor with the person that I'm talking to. This is like the authentic feeling of passionate excitement for the project. And if you're not passionate and excited about the project after hearing about it, because again, that'll be your first time hearing about it when you're in that first call, then you should check yourself and be like, you know what? Maybe I'm not the one for the job. Recommend somebody else for that job. If you're not genuinely excited and you're not going to make that energy impact to the team that you're going to be working with, recommend someone else. Taking on a project that you're not excited for is just going to lead to negative everything. Now, let me explain everything negative that comes out of you taking a project you don't want to work with. One, if they even hire you, right? Because they probably won't want to hire you if you're just putting on a whole show. So whatever, they can sense that, right? But let's say they hire you for the job because you did a good job of faking your excitement, okay? And you get into the parts where you actually need to work, where you're getting revisions as a creative person, you're getting all of these things. They're gonna remember that you don't want to be there, okay? They probably not gonna book you again, right? Let's say you deliver the project, that'll probably be the end of it. And they're not gonna talk to their friends. They're not gonna talk to their colleagues about you. So you just wasted your time, their money and their time, and your future possibility of working with his network. Now, here's something you could do. If you recommend somebody else who you know will be passionate about the project, and they reach out to them, and they work, and they fix the problem, this is how you are remembered. You are the person who by proxy solved the problem for them by recommending the person that would do it perfectly. They will remember you as somebody who is authentic and honest enough to be upfront with them, say no to money, and in order for them to be genuinely happy, and so they could solve the problem. And then here's what'll come out of those two things. They're probably gonna talk about you to somebody who has a project that's more in line with what you wanna do. They're probably gonna recommend you. And shoot, maybe they have another venture down the line or another project that they know maybe you might like, and they'll come back to you because they know you can do good work, you just weren't a good fit for that project. There's so much more positivity from just being honest about your work and wanting to do it than there is from just fabricating a feeling. And honestly, I think that's kind of the whole point of this whole video, is find authentic ways to make the client feel secured and confident about your contribution. I want you to take this as a creative. I want you to take the approach of being a professional into your line of work. You're not just this cool little artsy guy who wants to take photos if you're getting paid for it. I think that we need to hold ourselves to another standard when we enter the line of business and we decide to monetize our creativity as a service. We're no longer the artsy cool guy. No, we're a problem solver. We are solving the problem of marketing for that person through creative. There's things that come with that. There's little things, like everything I just said, that you can instill in your process to make yourself more professional. And this was a very vague video on just a couple of things that you can do to really build that trust with the potential client. But if you want me to dive deeper into some other things that I have in the way that I operate, let me know and I'll make some more videos on that. I'm not really sure how this is going to perform with my audience, considering that it is very artsy, but I know that all of us want to get paid to do the thing we love, right? If that's you, and maybe you've been working professionally for a few years and you've just found like a slump where you don't know where to elevate your experience, you're the best creative you can be, I really think this video and putting those things into effect are going to make an actual significant difference in not just the amount of work you get, but the amount of return work that you get. But yeah, if you got value out of this video, maybe send it to a friend, drop a comment what was your favorite part of the video that you're gonna start implementing into your creative kind of workflow, and hit that subscribe button. I'm gonna start making more videos like this. Let me know if there's anything you want me to talk about when it comes to creativity as a business. And yeah, I love y'all. I hope you have a great day, and remember to stay grateful. Peace.
Nice and organized. A lot of videographers you talk to, they don't have it organized. And David said you're like 20 something. This is impressive, man.
Bro, like if you're trusting me with I just want to make sure you feel comfortable, and that's the main thing. So I'm glad you feel that way.